from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I am Jen Mauro, and with me today is, as always, co-host Mike Walsh.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Pretty good.
That's awesome. We are in the heart of Advent right now, and I'm looking down the barrel of Christmas coming at me. And actually, currently, I'm celebrating today my wife's 50th birthday here on December 16th, as we're pre-recording this episode.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so my mind is completely frazzled right now with gifts I've bought, the wrong gifts I've purchased, gifts I still need to buy. I will admit that the spiritual end of Christmas is having a hard time getting through the secular side of all the stuff that is to be done, plus everything on the work scale that we have to get done right now. So I'm hoping that you're going to tell me that you are so focused on Advent right now and on Christmas right now that the warm embrace of the Advent season is around you and you're so excited and you feel the spiritual nourishment. Is that what's going on right now? Because it would make me feel much better if one of us at least is successfully enjoying the Advent season.
Wow, there was a lot of pressure right there. Actually, I got all of my shopping done early this year because I didn't have a lot of family around for Thanksgiving, so I spent what do you call that? Whatever, the
Good
big
Friday.
Day shopping, Good Friday.
Good Friday?
Good Friday.
Pretty sure it's Black Friday.
Pretty sure.
There you go.
And just shopped online. So I actually have been enjoying my Advent season. It's kind of maybe a first for me, and in the fact that I haven't been running around like a crazy person. But yeah, I am in a good Advent. I've been to Mass every Sunday, lighting my candles in my Advent wreath.
Very nice.
So last year we didn't get candles in time and I couldn't find any, so we used construction paper and I made little circles out of them and put them in the Advent wreath. Did not light them on fire, however. So it was pretty exciting to get candles back this year.
You could have.
Let them on fire?
Sure.
I could have.
They're cardboard.
I don't think it would have gone over well, but...
Next year. We had talked about we were going to talk about on the podcast today, and you had mentioned wanting to talk a little bit about some of the things you had covered in December. And actually, quite frankly, we really should bring this up real quickly. You had a great experience covering a lot of Our Lady of Guadalupe events in the Diocese of Camden last week. They are featured in the Catholic Star Herald. And I have to give you a lot of credit. If you look at the center page of the Catholic Star Herald this week, there is a beautiful review of the Our Lady of Guadalupe masses that occurred at two churches with spectacular photographs from a number of people, including yourself, but Alan Dumoff and Dave Hernandez. So you really need everybody, please go out and check that. The last copy of the Catholic Star Herald, because it is phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
So good job with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was a great evening. I went out on December 11th, the evening of Saturday night, and visited two parishes, one in Lindenwold and one in Camden, and took part in two processions. So the Blessed Mother helped me get a lot of exercise and steps in on Saturday night, and it was just so fantastic. It was great.
And the Blessed Mother kept you from overeating too, because you had so much work to do. You weren't able to actually enjoy any of the food that was there.
It is true. Oh my gosh, it smelled so good, and then I had to leave both sites before the food actually was served. Mm-hmm. So it was that part was sad. That was the only sad part of the night.
I got news for you. When you told me that on Monday, I was sad for you because I know how good the food is at all of those events, and to not get your tamale must have been particularly heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking, and I'm actually still craving Mexican food like 6 days later. So yeah, I might have to hit that up this weekend. Okay. That is my plan.
So this is a very special episode we're doing today. We did one last year in the throes of pandemic lockdown, and we did it via Zoom. But and you'll hear this the actual interview itself in a few moments. This is just a little conversation between Jen and I. But who are we going to be introducing on the podcast shortly?
I am very excited that we have our counterparts from Metuchen Diocese with us today. We have Tara Smith, the communications director for the Diocese of Metuchen, and Jerry Wutkowski, the assistant director of communications.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with them almost a year ago over Zoom. At that time, it was Mary McCusker was my co-host for that one, and it was really a great conversation about what we had been going through in the midst of the pandemic and sort of how we were as communicators, making sure to keep the message going out there when everything was still in some form of lockdown or separation. So we figured I had the idea that maybe we should make this kind of an annual thing where we invite the podcasters from the northern end of the state whose podcast is greatly superior to my own. If you've never listened to it, I really encourage you to. It's one I like to listen to when I want to hear a podcast actually done well. They are professionals. They sound great. It's like, I don't know if this is going to make people want to listen to it or make people cut their ears off, but I was saying to Jen earlier, it's actually got a Catholic NPR feel to it. It's just very well reasoned, very spiritual, very understood, very easy to consume. They also don't make it over long, which is nice as well. Yeah. So it's great.
It is great. It's very, like you said, very spiritual, and I've learned a lot by listening to it too. They cover things and talk about events in real time and what's coming up in the church year. So I've learned a lot.
Yeah. So in a few moments here, we'll hear from them. Talk to you soon. Oh. Hey, Tara. Hey, Jerry. What's going on?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Oh man! I never know how to start a conversation for the podcast when we don't do our usual preset interview. It never quite feels right to me. So, but anyway, so this is going to be a special episode. It's going to be broadcast on both our podcast feed and your podcast feed. So everyone our millions of listeners will get a chance to combined millions of listeners will get a chance to listen.
Mike,
to
all your fans will hear you.
Across all the dioceses.
I just hope my fans appreciate hearing from you guys, because you have one of my favorite podcasts to listen to when I'm not listening to myself on a podcast. What's the name of it?
It's called Am I Not Here?
Am I Not Here?
Which is Our Lady of Guadalupe is kind of the patroness of our podcast, because our diocese was consecrated to Jesus through Our Lady of Guadalupe 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So a tribute to her. Am I Not Here?
That was great. And actually, come to think of it, your diocese is celebrating anniversary this year, right?
We are, 40th anniversary. So we just had our opening mass, and so we're planning a lot of different celebrations throughout the year. So we're really looking forward to it. A lot going on, and especially, winding with the synod, and just a lot.
It's just going to be nonstop.
Yeah.
It is.
But all good things.
Yeah, but that's a nice change, because we were sort of we were stuck in neutral for a little while there, and now 2022 is hitting, and everything's hitting.
Everything's hitting. Well, the church never does one thing at a time.
No, they don't.
We always do multiple years, all crammed into 1 year.
It's the year of everything.
Yeah. We have the year of the family. We had, the year of St. Joseph. There was just a lot going on. So why make it any different in 2022?
No, now we're going to be completely focused between the Synod and the Eucharistic Revival. Yeah. That's going to be our next big thing. Where I know in our diocese, in the Camden Diocese, we're already heavily planning what the Eucharistic Revival is going to look like, and unfortunately, at least 20% of the work is going to be done by me. So I'm not quite sure how to handle that. But don't worry, Jen. There'll be plenty for you to do too.
Nice of you to share.
You're so generous.
I like to spread the work around as best I can. Now, Jen and Jerry, you guys actually know each other from past lives, right?
Yeah, we worked together in the Diocese of Trenton a while back, and I don't know how do you express those years. I was thinking of, because I was coming down the turnpike, and I said, I used to make this commute all the time, but I was going a little further this time to Camden. And I was like, I got to see Jen again, and I haven't seen Jen since probably I left Trenton about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it was just great to see her and give her a great hug. And but one of my greatest memories of Jen is that she is always seeking a relationship with everything that she does. And when she first came to the Monitor, she came up to our offices and was like, "Hi, I'm Jen. I'm from the Monitor. I'm doing a story on this." And then she just sat down and just started talking about our office, and just wanted to know a little bit more about ourselves. And I said, I'm like, this is strange, because it wasn't anything for the paper. It was just building relationships. So ever since then, me and Jen, I would always come down and say hi to her, and I'd visit all my paper people, and just hang out and just build that solid relationship in the ministry.
I loved it when we were working together, and it's funny because I think I'm going to ask you this bluntly on the air. Here it comes. So when I started at the Monitor, it was World Youth Day, and you were going to
right.
Poland,
yes.
right? And I remember I just got there. Jerry's leaving like 2 weeks later. And I'm like, so here's my number and my email. Here's my cell phone. Can you please text me quotes and mugs, or headshots of all the kids in lifetime? And Jerry's like, I think you were looking at me like, who is this person? And then I would look at the clock. I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in Poland. I'm going to text Jerry and see if he can send me something. And I can only imagine what was going on the other end.
Oh my gosh, absolute chaos.
But he was such a good sport. And I think that my first issue, maybe the second of the Monitor, was World Youth Day, which you helped make possible. It was on the cover by sending us photos and everything. And then I think Jerry's like, what is going on? And then the other thing I always remember about Jerry, there's a lot of things, is that I remember when I would go in your office, you had the giant cardboard cutout of the Pope Francis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, this guy is super happy. and so I always knew if I was like in a down mood or whatever, I'm going up to see Jerry and the evangelization team, because you guys always just full of spirituality and friendship.
Amen.
Although I didn't realize that this was habitual of you. You come into my office and just sit down all the time. And I know you're not coming there for joy, because that does not occur in my office. But I every now and again, she just sort of appears in my doorway. And I'm like, oh, hi, Jen, what's up? And then she sits down, and then 20 minutes go by because we're having a conversation. I have a feeling that's the sign of a good reporter right there, that just kind of bursts in and decides to have a conversation with you.
I'm always just looking for information. Is that what you're saying?
So, Tara, we're good reporters.
Yeah, we must be. We do the same thing all the time. I think it's looking for the camaraderie.
Yeah.
We definitely are very good at building the relationship, at least with one another.
Yeah.
And throughout the office.
Yeah.
But,
I feel very out of place here. You mean ranting and accusing people of things and getting irritated by people all the time is not the common way of handling the communications office? Oh, I think I've been doing it wrong. No, that's actually one of the things that comes through in your podcast, is actually just how lovely the two of you are, and genuinely interested in the goings on in Metuchen and the Catholic Church in general. It's always, For those who wonder how the dioceses sort of interact with each other, basically we try to steal each other's best ideas and then reformat them for ourselves, which I'm happy to say the Diocese of Metuchen has been a great generator of ideas for us. And oftentimes I will look at your content and go, okay, that's what we did wrong, or I need something similar to that, because it's just kind of great like that. And I mean, Jen, were you of that ilk? Would you read other publications?
Oh,
Do you
sure.
still read other publications?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you have to, why reinvent the wheel? And sometimes we still do, but I mean, compared to other organizations, I think that especially Catholic journalism might be a smaller pot to look at. So I think we all need to share ideas as much as we can, and then talk to each other about what we can do together going forward.
Yeah. We definitely do that too in Metuchen. I mean, a lot of our ads are designed that way.
Yeah.
I present something to Jerry and I say, can you mimic this, what it looks like? Because we really like this look. And he does a beautiful job.
Yeah. But we have our go-to diocese, obviously Camden.
Yes.
Good answer.
We share.
But I always tell it's the church is feeding off of each other.
Right.
And it's just like this common share and this common mission that we share with one another. It's not a competition when people think they're like, oh, what is this diocese doing versus this diocese? I go, we're just one church, and we're trying to live out the mission every single day.
Yeah.
That's true. And you need a diversity of opinions and diversity of perspectives, and that's why we keep an eye on everybody else. I even can keep an eye on the people that I don't think do a particularly good job, because I want to make sure I don't do that. So it's important. Hey, listen, we've all hate read our Twitter feed from time to time, and it's what, well, maybe some of the people listening to this have never done that, and I hope you never do, because it's a terrible habit to get into. But every now and again, I'm like, oh boy, let's see what they did today, and you go through it. That was a sweary digression on a podcast.
That must have come out of that spirituality of Advent.
Which is currently I'm not being able to find. Like right now, I'm trying to write stuff for Christmas. And I'm just I was telling Jen this earlier, I'm having the devil of a time coming up with some written pieces, because I will admit I'm not there yet. I only just started listening to Christmas music 2 days ago, because I just couldn't listen to it prior to that. It just wasn't in the mindset. So I'm hoping maybe the Christmas music will come over me and I'll start feeling better about it. Are you?
I was thinking the same thing, reflecting on which holiday is my favorite in the Catholic Church. Easter, hands down, is my favorite. I think because there's not so much commercialism around it, so you're able to get into the spirituality of it. Christmas, it's very, like you said, Mike, it's very competing. It's, you have all these things to do in your home life, and just trying to bring the faith into that becomes very difficult. So, Jen, I don't know why you don't sit down in his office for joyful conversations.
I could try to bring more joy in there, but I think that...
I'd probably throw you out.
Yeah. That's exactly true.
No, but that, well, I guess that's a good question for you, though, Tara. I mean, you and I have the exact same job. How do you keep any spirituality going in your life, knowing all the difficulties that you and I have to deal with as communicators for the Catholic Church?
That's a hard question.
I don't ask easy questions on this
That
podcast.
is really a difficult question. One of our seminarians asked me this, and I'm going to tell you the very candid story. One of our seminarians asked me, how does this job bring you closer to your faith? And I really reflected on that, because some days I'm like, some days it doesn't, to be quite honest. But then there are moments that really bring me much closer to my faith in this job, So I always thrive on the events where we have our diocesan family together. So we just celebrated the opening of our 40th anniversary as a diocese. And it's like when everybody comes together and you see all these people that you work with, we're very privileged to be Catholic communicators in that sense, in that there's so much overlap. We don't just do our ministry, but we cover everybody's ministry. So to me, those events at our cathedral, they're almost like homecomings. You see everybody that you've worked with over the years and especially throughout the pandemic, coming together. So I wave at everybody. I'm like in my zone. So that brings me closer to my faith in remembering all the ways that they're ministering, and that while I might not be the one ministering, they're carrying out the work, and I play a small part in being able to tell that story. So that's really, but it is hard to get into that mindset and that headspace when you're trying to write something. Yeah. And I often listen to, when I write, my husband gives me a hard time because I'll put on Spotify and it's either Catholic music or it's Braveheart if I'm really trying to concentrate. Braveheart. Yeah, because it's just like, it's very, there's no music, there's no lyrics to try and sing along to. Yeah, it's very, it puts me in the zone. So maybe try Braveheart, Mike.
Okay. I would, in a zillion years, that would never have come up to me. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for bringing Tara Smith to my presence today. So I will attempt the Braveheart soundtrack. Because, wow. I'm actually flummoxed by that. That is awesome. Because I usually go with Metallica, and that does not help. No.
That does not put you in the spiritual.
No, it does not put me in the spiritual
headspace.
More of a dealing with morons headspace. But once again, Catholic podcast right here. You just heard that, folks. Sorry about that. Well, so here's the deal. When you get people like us together, and this is for the listeners, we do tend to, when we're all together by ourselves, us Catholic communicators, the folks that, see how the sausage is made a lot of times. There's a lot of stresses in our jobs, and a lot of people wouldn't understand what we go through. So when we get together with other people who actually understand, who we can just shoot a look at and they completely understand the thought process going through your mind, it's a cathartic experience. Certainly not intended for podcast airwaves, all the things that probably go through our heads. But it's good, I think, for the people to know that, the people who do this job are very professional. We take this job very, very seriously. And these jobs are difficult. It's not easy to... I had someone tell me once that the closer you get up the food chain in a Catholic diocese, you need so much more spiritual health because you see the humanity of people so often, and it can be difficult sometimes to come to grips with the fact that here are these very spiritual people, and I'm not talking about priests specifically, I'm anybody and that's a Catholic leader, but also dealing with very human emotions and human reactions to things, and it can be difficult sometimes. And the funny thing is on this podcast, if people have heard me rant often, I love this job. I cannot wait to come to this job every single morning, no matter what headaches are waiting for me that I know of, and the headaches that come at me that I never saw coming. I just love this job because, to your point, I do get to see all the great things that happen. Our ministry technically, well, I mean, we're all supposed to be evangelizers, and I think we do that, but it's not. We are, and all of us are vessels for that evangelization. Like, I don't necessarily think the words coming out of my mouth are going to be the things that changes anybody's heart, but we want to make ourselves available to everybody so that we can, all those things that the pastoral people do, we can figure out the best way of getting them into somebody's ears or in front of somebody's eyes so that they can be touched by it, right? But that's hard work. And it's not easy to do because our job requires us to think logically and oftentimes emotionlessly about these very beautiful moments of the Catholic Church or messages from the Catholic Church. So I don't know where I'm going with all that. But other than to say to our listeners, if you hear me be a little extra sarcastic, it's because I'm with my brothers and sisters in this industry. And sometimes it's good to get a few things off our chest. But, at any time Jen needs to put her hand over my mouth, I will understand. She needs to tackle the microphone away from me. I totally get it.
I don't know. I have to take a little issue with what you said, that sometimes whatever comes out of your mouth, you don't think it's going to touch anybody's heart. You never know.
That's true.
You never know.
That's true.
Even during a rant, you just never know. And it kind of reminds me, I was just, listening to your most recent podcast when you were talking about Our Lady of Guadalupe, Jerry and Tara, I think it was last week. And I'm sorry, I can't remember which one of you said it, but you were talking about also because it's you're the 40th year for the Metuchen, and you said something along the lines of, I'm going to butcher it, y'all said it a lot better. When Mary had Jesus, I'm sure she already knew, she had an important role, but she had no idea that after she was gone, she would continue to affect so many people. I think that you had said that, and that's true with all of us. I think that sometimes we don't realize how our words can affect people, or when our time is past, how our presence may have moved somebody, even though we don't think that we finished our mission. Does that make sense?
No, amen.
Jerry's looking at me very intently, and I don't know what that means.
No, I think every time we do the podcast or we do something or we send something out, we always have to put it through that lens of evangelization first, and be like, who is going to hear this? Who's being receptive to this, and how is this going to change someone's heart? If we are not looking in that sort of realm, we're sort of not doing our mission. And so every time we sit down to plan or we sit down to think of something, I know Tara always gets me every single time. I'll come up with something. She's like, no. And so it's just, but being able to do that, I think, allows the Spirit to move a little bit in the conversation, because like the Blessed Mother, she said, she said her fiat and said yes, and changed the world and really salvation history. How many times does our yes change the world? How many times does our simple action, how many times does Mike's rants make it to transform a heart? Our tagline is lighting hearts on fire for our consecration to Our Lady of Guadalupe in the Metuchen Diocese, and we go with that understanding that we're called to light hearts on fire and renew the mission right here in our local community.
See, I told you would say it better than me. No. This is why I came up to your office when we first met and sat with you guys. You have all the words.
See, always, once you get me going, then it's nonstop. And I feel like Tara's looking at me going like, soapbox.
Not at all. I really enjoy the soapbox moments, because I've always said it, and I think we talked a little bit about this when we did our crossover podcast last year. When Jerry and I, when it's just him and I on our podcast, he really has drawn me this relationship, this working relationship that we have, has drawn me so much closer to the faith, just by him being a witness to his own faith. So I really cherish those moments, and so I'm all for the soapbox, Jerry.
Amen. Nice. None of my co-hosts have ever inspired that out of me. That is so weird. No. I keep inviting. That's why we always have guests on, because I can't rely on any of my co-hosts.
We'll bring you on ours, Mike.
No, that would not be fair to the people of Metuchen.
It sounds like Mike wants me to stop in his office more often.
No, this is getting worse.
I hear you, Mike. I hear you. I hear your call.
Tara, over the last year, we really haven't had a chance to talk much over the last year, you and I. I'm curious, how have things been for you professionally in terms of, the day-to-day workings of the diocese? I know the church, we talk about the church keeping us busy, but how has it been for you?
It's been busy.
That's good.
That's the
and
podcast.
I was just thinking how nice it is to be able to sit at a round table and do a podcast in person, because we haven't.
This is I think it's our first time ever doing something in person.
Yeah, we tried it once,
and it
didn't go well. So we had to re-record it.
Really?
Really. So this is really our first time doing it in person, and I feel like my arm should be going, because normally I have my daughter. I'm recording in my house, and my daughter walks in, and I'm like, get out. So it's just like a natural response now. But things have been busy, but in good ways, you know? So just there's been a lot to respond to in the church and in the secular world. We've had, our diocese was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Ida that came through. And it was so unexpected, and it came through so quickly. So we really, dropped everything that we were doing and responded to that. I don't know. There's just been so.
I know it feels constant.
So much.
If you were to ask me what did I work on in the last year, everything, but I wouldn't
I have
be able
no idea.
Yeah,
I can't tell you.
It's a thousand things. For those of you who are wondering what people like us do, we do everything. We touch on everything. We get called into meetings about everything. We work with every department, but we are very much in the moment. We plan for things. Like I'm already deep in the throes of planning for the Eucharistic revival, which in our diocese will kick off in mid-June. I think around the world it'll kick off in mid-June. I think June. Remember about that?
Yeah,
June.
Okay, June. Whether I remember things accurately is a completely different story, but I'm pretty sure June. But yeah, we're trying to come up with all those kinds of ideas. But in the Christmas season, we've really been trying to do. This year and last year, we were creating a lot of content in the diocese. But once things started to open up, really, I'd say this past summer into the fall, we kind of stopped creating a lot of stuff internally and really tried to, promote what's actually happening in the parishes. So, because there really are, the parishes in our area at least have really opened up quite well. I would almost say almost to the point of being back to normal. In terms of parishes having events and schools having recitals and programs and things like that, safety first and foremost, but if there was a way to do it, they were doing it. So we've really been going out a lot more. I've been working most weekends. The Star Herald staff has been working most weekends because there's a lot of great stuff going on. But it actually freed me up to start thinking about stuff to do for 2022. So I'm curious, Tara, what does the Diocese of Metuchen have in plan for 2022? What does the communications department have planned?
We live very much in the moment, Mike. Remember, you just said that.
It's true.
No, we have a lot going on with our 40th anniversary. We're trying to get on board with the Synod. Jerry and I feel like we're on every planning committee that the diocese has. And I'm sure it's the same in Camden. A lot of times when we're in these meetings, it's Tara and Jerry, what's the status of this? Yeah. Tara and Jerry, what's the status of this? So there's just a lot going on. So we're just trying to keep up. Keep up and just tread water. And like you said, last year at this time, we were putting out a lot of content, a lot of, production. But like you said, we've been more and more in the parishes, trying to reach out and help them in any way that we can. So one of the ways that we've talked about doing it for years, but one of the ways that we're trying to do that is to get all communicators in all parishes on board, or at least one representative from the parishes who can serve as like a communication champion.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
To try and because we can only communicate so much, and we do the very best we can with two people. But to be able to equip the parishes to give them the tools that they need to feel confident in their communications, that's really what this 2022 entails for us, along with Synod, Eucharistic Revival, and 40th anniversary. So how about you guys?
Nothing.
What can I steal from you?
Let's see. Let's see. What do we have going on? Well, I'm really trying to. I'll tell this so that I'll warn my pastoral people. I have a list of 20 different items I want to get started in the diocese next year.
Wow.
That I'm going to grab them by the back of the neck and do my best to make them do. I want to get the theology on taps started again, and I'm going to brand all of this stuff either under the Talking Catholic or the Catholic Star Herald. I just need good spiritual people to actually do the spiritual end of that stuff, because obviously I have proven today over the past 29 minutes that I'm not capable of doing that myself. But yeah, I want to do more with the youth groups. I want to and I really want to start bringing the diocese together more often. So you noted recently regarding your 40th anniversary celebration, your kickoff, how great it was having everybody back together again. We've only had that opportunity once in the last 2 years because of the pandemic, not because we didn't want to do it, but we haven't had the opportunity to do it. When the Synod kicked off in October, we had a special Synod Mass, opening Mass, and we gave out bishop's medals to 75 people in the diocese for meritorious service to the diocese, and it was great. And we had 500 people there, and we had cocktails and hors d'oeuvres afterwards. Everyone got together. It was wonderful. And speaking of things that made me happy, aside from the stress of helping to put that event on, it was one of the best events that we've had or best days I've had in a long time, even though I was going insane trying to get everything done, because it was so great to say thank you to all the people in the diocese who got medals, and a lot of them got medals because of the work they did during the pandemic, but also over the course of 25, 40 years in service to the diocese. But we also got to come together and talk to each other and be joyful with each other. So for 2022, I'm trying to come up with all of these activities, diocesan-wide activities that are going to bring people together. A reformatted youth congress. We already have our I Race for Vocations, which is literally a 5K race for vocations. But there's all these elements I want to incorporate into it. Yes, that's right, Father Romano. I have ideas of changing I Race for Vocations in the way I want, so I can create a Catholic jamboree.
That's something to steal, Tara Smith. That's something to steal.
I'm telling you that we're going to do that, and I got just great things. I want to showcase some of the big things that are supposed to be going on in New Jersey. Every year in years past, anyway, not the last 2 years, they've had this big youth event at Six Flags, where they'll have hundreds of youth there celebrating our Catholic faith amongst all the amusements. I want to do something big with that. I have all these ideas percolate. I actually spent the better part of a day going through, and I came up with 25 different activities. I want to do diocesan-wide spelling bees and sports tournaments and artist expos and stuff like that.
Now, I have a question. Do you see a lot of your pastoral staff when you walk through the building?
Do I see them?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they hide when they see you coming. Because this sounds exhausting.
Yes, that's right. I want them all to be as exhausted as I am.
I'm getting worried because it's going to follow in Metuchen.
I've also decided I'm not coming to your office.
I want everybody to work and work hard, because that's what's been missing over the last 2 years, is coming together, and I want to make sure that we figure out a way to make people come together. Amen. And I'm sorry to both of you that if Bishop Cecchio hears any of this stuff, you guys may end up doing more work, and I apologize to my own pastoral staff, except no, I don't, because I don't care, because this is important, and we're going to keep doing it. Anyway, so people who are listening to this, if there are things in your parish or your diocese or the state of New Jersey that you would like to see happen, please, Smith at Metuchen. Michael.Walsh at CamdenDiocese.org would be perfectly fine. I will actually take them. I can't say that we're going to be able to do all of them. I can't say that we're going to be able to do any of them, but I think it's important that in our parishes and in our schools and in our dioceses and in our state, we are coming together and finding ways of reinvigorating the Catholic Church, not because it's not invigorated in and of itself, but simply because we're coming out of the pandemic, and it's important that we showcase how beautiful the spirituality of the Catholic Church is, and how it's so wonderful when we actually come together, and how it, to your point, to my point, that it brought us such joy to see all those people together. Rant over.
That was the most spiritual rant I ever heard from you, Mike.
Yeah, but it was awfully aggressive, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, but feel the spirit move.
Yeah, it was passionate.
It was passionate. I never. Well, what do I was telling.
Welcome to the soapbox.
Thanks, Jerry. I've always said the opposite of love is not hate; it's apathy, and no one will ever accuse me ever of being apathetic. So I assure you of that. In Tara, from the purpose, from your point of view, how have the parishes been handling the pandemic? I mean, do you feel that there's a sense of coming back to normalcy, or?
I do. I think they are coming back to normal. And now it's just trying to really encourage people to, come home for that sense of belonging, like we talked about. Because, and you know what, a gift of the pandemic has been getting the parishes on board with digital media and live streaming. And that really is such a gift, but used in the right way.
Exactly.
There's just nothing that can replace coming back to Mass and being present. It's the same as working, for me at least, working in the office. It's coming and seeing the people and being present with people, not just, Zoom is great. It has its place.
Yeah.
I much prefer seeing people in person.
Absolutely.
And that's the same thing I feel, that's why we go to Mass. We go to Mass to worship with each other and to see the Lord in person, not just virtually.
Yes.
So yeah, our parishes have really been coming back to normal. The bishop is out and about at a lot of events, a lot of parish events. He was at Simbangabi this past week.
Oh, good.
So that's happening. So really, things are returning to normal. So I'm just praying that, we stay where we are.
Me too. And, I realize it's the winter time and referring to COVID, everything said that things are going to spike now. So be careful, everybody. Do what you're supposed to do. Wear your masks. If I will admit that I have gone back to wearing masks more frequently when I'm out and about, simply because I don't feel like getting sick. I really, it's completely selfish at this point. It's like, nah, I'm good. I'm vaccinated, and I'll probably get my booster shortly. I'm supposed to go on pilgrimage to Israel in a few months. Do not even think about texting me for any stuff.
I'm texting you for a live report.
You're not getting...
Just like I did Jerry 5-6 years ago.
I will send them when I'm done.
Jerry, maybe you should talk to Mike about what you should
Maybe I will
expect.
text Mike.
Yeah.
The difference is I know where the mute is or the do not disturb is on my phone. I'll block all of you. But I will, however, be creating content while I'm out there. But because I'm going, I have to get boosted before I'm allowed into Israel, or else I have to get tested every day. So I'm going to get my booster and all that kind of stuff. But it's purely selfish. I just want to have a nice, normal Christmas and winter where I don't have to deal with any of the insanity of, infections and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It is a little bit of a nerve-wracking time now. Anytime you hear somebody cough or,
Yes.
my kids just had a cold, but I took them to get tested because, you just don't. It's hard to tell the difference, and Google is not very helpful.
No, not really.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
No. I'm turning 50 soon, and I was having some side pains recently, and they were like coming out of nowhere. And I said, I should probably Google just to make sure that's. And I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, that's the worst
because I'll
idea.
definitely have cancer if that happens. Yeah. I'm like, no, or a heart attack or a stroke, one or the other. I don't care. But I should definitely go see my doctor. I don't know. It's still, it's for all of our enthusiasm. We are still in a time period that requires some restraint.
Yeah.
So, and I'm content to be restrained through the winter months. But come the spring, I want to see an explosion of Catholicism everywhere. I want to see billboards. I want to see the news media, the secular news media covering us because of our events. I want to showcase smiling, happy Catholic people coming together and expressing their appreciation for our church and our faith. Just wonderful things. So don't let me forget that, Jen.
Write it down, 27 with the 27 other things.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. I actually should go through that list on my phone at some point.
He's actually pulling out his phone.
I really am, because I had 1,000 really good ideas on there, and I kind of feel like I need to give them out to the world at large on this podcast and tell them, listen, man, don't just let me do all this stuff. You guys can do this kind of stuff too. Yeah, diocesan concerts. I had an entire diocesan concert series. We should do that.
Wow.
Submission contest for the Catholic Star Herald. Photos, paintings, digital.
Start writing this down.
I know.
I was going to say, Tara, I think
It's being recorded, so I'm going to take that.
There you go. I need to build a proper studio for all of our recording. Like, we do everything on the fly. We do it on location, but I'd like to have a proper recording. And then I have ideas for brand new Talking Catholic YouTube shows, a sports show that we're going to do. I want to get more of our pastoral people working on a regular basis. I think this is great.
You're going to be busy, Jen.
I was given the heads up a little bit. So.
Tara Smith, you're going to be busy.
Yes, apparently I am.
Bishop Checchio definitely reads what's going on in Camden.
Yes, he does. Well, it's his home diocese,
right?
So rightfully so. And I think his parents still, or his mother still lives here.
His mother still lives there.
Sisters, I believe.
Yes, and you know what? Tell you what, I will ask Bishop Sullivan to forward this podcast to Bishop Checchio.
I'm so grateful to you for that.
We have ideas for it because there's nothing worse in this world than a bored Catholic communicator.
I don't know what that is.
Well,
I've never been one.
That's an excellent point. I feel bad for the ones who are, though. I'm sure that they exist out there. I was talking to one of our colleagues in the state the other day, and she called me up, and I heard her voice, and it took me just 2 seconds to realize, oh, she's going through the ringer. That's okay. These things happen. Mm-hmm. But we commiserated for all of 30 seconds, and then we got on to the task at hand. I don't know. How you doing, Jen?
Hey.
Every time we do this podcast, I tell everyone, please do not let me overtake the conversation because nobody wants to listen to me rant for 30 straight minutes.
That was not a rant, but I will say
I will disagree. I will disagree.
That was a rant?
No.
I was like, wow, Jerry.
I like listening to Mike.
He's in your fan club too.
Oh, sweet. I'll send you a T-shirt. So we have gotten not hate mail, but I have gotten critiques of the show in the past, which I actually am very fond of. I like getting those. We got a critique recently that we need to change our intro music, and I actually tend to agree. It definitely isn't time for a refresh. And I did get a complaint that I talk too much on the podcast. When we have guests on, I don't let them talk enough. And that one I listened to. That one I had realized it, and then I had been having a bad day, and I was feeling aggressive. And we had this great young priest on who'd just been ordained, just been ordained, and everybody wanted to listen to him talk. And I went long for like the first 25 minutes of the thing, and by the time I was finished, I looked over at my co-host, and she had this. She literally was going to grab for my arm to tell me to settle down, and I did, and I settled down. And we got feedback about something else too, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Something else. But I always listen. I like getting...
Yeah, that's
so,
good.
ladies and gentlemen, if you have a criticism of the podcast, you should always let us know. It's jennifer.mauro@catholicstarherald.org.
Or T. Smith.
Or try a different podcast. Like, Am I Not Here?
Yes.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Tara, thank you very much. That was perfect. And yes, their podcast is great. I actually kind of feel bad because we're going to ruin their feed with this recording. But when you listen to it, it's calming. It's inspiring. I actually do listen to it specifically because it's an antidote for my own sometimes hostile feelings about the world at large. And it reminds me, Jerry,
Jerry makes it real.
He does. He does a great job of letting people know, okay, this is the reason why we believe what we believe, and this is how it helps us to believe like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Has there ever been an episode of the podcast, Jerry, that you really felt like people might respond to, like after it?
No, I mean, responding is a unique word, but our goal is to get the message out and to express in an authentic way of what's happening right now. People don't believe us, but I tell them we record every week because we try to keep it current and we try to keep it very real to what's going on in the world and especially in the church. And when I tell that, they're like, "No, it can't be. You have these like stacked up and ready to go." And I'm like, "No,
I wish we did."
Us too.
Sometimes our schedules just don't work, but we go with the idea that we want people to be receptive to an authentic church. Mm-hmm. We want them to grow in relationship with us, maybe, or at least with the Lord, and we just try to guide that. And if they pick that up, what a blessing. If not, maybe just stick around a little longer.
Well, I think on your last episode, you actually recorded a version of the podcast that is the one that terrifies me the most. If I'm ever left to my own devices and have to record a podcast by myself.
Oh, yes, the solo.
The solo episode.
I love it. I love every second of it. First of all, so he does a phenomenal, I'm just like the side piece. He can do it all by himself.
Well,
he can do it all by himself. I've left him to his own devices a few times. So the one over the summer, he did an NFP podcast by himself with guests.
Wow.
And he handled it like a champ. But he really does a great job. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for it. If you ever want to take it solo, Jerry.
Oh, no.
More
That's
power
not
to you.
happening.
Well, that's the nice thing about having a pastoral person in the communications department, because they can
Yes.
be pastoral,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's natural to them. It is completely unnatural for me to be pastoral in any way, shape, or form, ever. So it's difficult for me. Like, I can do a rant.
We can make it happen.
No, see, okay. So I forget if we talked about this on air or not, but I'm writing Christmas messages right now, and I'm having a lot of difficulty with it because I'm lacking. Oh, that's right, we did talk about it. It's because I'm lacking inspiration about how to, because I need to start listening to Braveheart. But it's the truth and the verbal stuff too. Like, I will admit that in this job causes you to be reactionary, so I tend to react to things, and so it's difficult for me to be pastoral in that regard.
Well,
Yeah.
advice in that, I would say, obviously, it's acceptance of the reality that it's always nonstop and you never know what you're going to walk into. And that's pretty much a solid piece of my prayer life. Like, Lord, what are you going to teach me today? What are you going to show me today? What am I going to learn? How am I going to trip over my feet? You know, it's, if we take those to the Lord, we're going to be able to be ready to respond the next time. I think that's just our journey together that we share. We're always growing. You know, we call ourselves experts, or I hear everyone say, "Oh, the experts in the room." No, we're not experts. We're just trying to answer what God's asking of us right now. So if we just continue to do that, we bring that to our prayer life, I think we can respond. So, Mike, you can, become very pastoral. And I feel that there has been, especially in this space, it's been very pastoral. So
in this room, that phrase is very rarely used. But okay, I hear what you're saying. But you just said an important phrase that I do not discuss with my colleagues in the communications world very often, which is prayer life. Mostly, well, for selfish reasons, I don't do that because my prayer life is terrible, and I don't like to necessarily announce it to the world that I have a terrible prayer life. But it got me to thinking, Jen, you're a nice and holy person. How would you categorize your prayer life as a Catholic media person?
Difficult.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Okay, can you expand on that? It's a 54-minute podcast.
I think we should all just rewind to, I think it was like minute 44 when Jerry just gave that good advice. I will be listening back to there. No, I don't know. It's difficult. Like we were just talking about it. It's a fast-paced job, and sometimes I find this very odd. But sometimes when you work for the church, I don't know, just in me anyway, I still forget to take the problems of my church job to God.
Yeah, amen.
And I'm like, wait, why am I forgetting to do that? I'm working for God. Why am I not asking his advice or help or leaning on him more?
Yeah, that's always the trap that I think we all fall into, is especially anybody who works for the church or does it as a full-time gig, that we seem to put ourselves first in the situation. Like, how would I do this as a career level? It's not necessarily like, how am I living up to what God has called me to do? Because everybody that sits in these roles, I firmly believe God has called them to those roles, and just allowing God to take control. So that allows us to just open up a little bit of surrender, and being able to do that might be just the greatest gift to our prayer life.
That's great. Tara, how's your prayer life?
Like Jen said, it's difficult. It's difficult to remember, the source of your faith and your prayer when you're in the constant deluge of just information coming out. But once you're in that space, it's a gift, like you said, Jerry. It's so it's difficult. And one of the stories that I remember is when my own pastor, he said to me, when I first told him I was going to work for the diocese, he said, "Well, I hope you have a strong faith." And me being very young and naive, what does that mean? Like, why wouldn't I have a strong, like, what do you mean by that? But now I'm like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think that's also a call to pray for your communicators.
Please.
Everyone that's listening, to pray for your communicators, because I don't think people realize all the nitty-gritty and the day-to-day that goes behind the scenes all the time. You see us at the big events, and you probably hear us on the podcast, but there are probably like 1,000 things like on Mike's list that are going on simultaneously. Right. And I think it's just encouragement to the listeners to pray for the communicators, pray that the Lord continues to do his work. to us.
I would agree with
like
that. And I might even expand that to you might want to pray for the accountants. And I'm not kidding. I mean, all the people in service to the church and the custodians and the development people and the IT guys, we're all actually, believe it or not, and we all have the same mission. We just have different ways of providing that work to the church. But it's all equally important. We happen to have the benefit of tools like this, the podcast, the newspaper, the social media, the websites, to be able to announce these things. But there are so many people working day to day in the diocese, and I am blessed with working with some of the best people on earth. Sometimes being a diocesan employee, it's the big bad diocese, right? It's the, the diocese ruined this, or the diocese decision on this made this difficult. And there might be some validity to that. However, the people making those decisions, the people doing that work, the people who are coming together to advise the bishop and the Catholic leadership on what they should do, all they ever do is with the best of intentions in mind. And they want to preserve the Catholic Church and make sure it's in a position to still be able to proclaim, what we read every day on a Sunday, the other 6 days of the week. It's important to remind people that our Catholic faith is not the thing you do for an hour on Sunday. It's a thing that should be sort of ingrained in your body. And I know, saying I kind of blow that up earlier when I was saying my prayer life is terrible, but I'm oftentimes when I'm creating the content, it's for me. It's for people that I know are going through the same struggles that I'm going through, that are having a difficult time focusing on their faith, or remembering that, their faith can positively influence their secular decisions, their family life, their professional life. These are little things that are, so yeah, if you've ever wondered about the stuff we create, 9 times out of 10, it's for me.
It's for Mike's friends.
It's because I'm so terrible.
When I first got to the diocese, before Camden Diocese, and Jerry and I worked together, one of the things that I was immediately struck by is you were in family life, or youth and family life and evangelization. You started, your department started every morning with prayer. Yeah. And I remember I would come up and try to sneak into your prayers, and sometimes I was invited, so there was no sneaking. But I thought, I'm going to take that back down to the newspaper, magazine. I just couldn't do it. I felt like it was because maybe I'm a journalist and we're all jaded as it is. Like, I didn't even know how to start that. And I always, So it was kind of what you were talking about too, Tara, about talking to your priest. And I didn't want, when I came to Camden, before I got here, like the week before I started, I went to my pastor and I had a meeting with him, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I think he was completely shocked, because I was like, "Can we have a meeting?" And then I wanted to get there and I wanted to ask him how to be a better servant leader, like servant leadership. And I think he was surprised by that. And then we both kind of sat there and thought about it together. But
what a blessing that is, because I think we don't take that into the forefront of our work, is that we don't allow our spirituality to live out. And I think it might be a little awkward in the beginning, because we're sort of fighting that career battle.
Right.
But I think, a woman reminded me recently when she came to deliver food, that was delivered to the wrong person, myself. But she said, I'm in the house of the Lord. And it like struck me, because I was like, we're in an office building. But just down the hallway is the tabernacle, and Jesus is located there. And so it's just that friendly reminder that he's present in that. And so it shouldn't be awkward that we pray or we live out our spirituality while we continue to do this work, because if we're not believing who is there present with us in our work, I don't think there's a point to us doing this.
Yeah.
That's the truth of that.
It's beautiful. That's why I liked what you said a few minutes ago in saying, pray for your communicators.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need help with our own prayers.
Yeah, and we tend to fall too, just like everyone else. That's just humanity. And so we do need the prayers too. There's no perfect people here that continue to live the faith 100% all the time. We're here to walk the journey as well with our brothers and sisters. So as you pray for many different intentions, continue to pray for your communicators.
Wow. If we didn't have another minute to fill, that'd be a great way to end the podcast. But yes, it is true. And, we don't want to sound selfish about that, but, we do appreciate it. And we actually do appreciate the nice things you guys say to us, either because of the stuff you see in our newspapers, or on our websites, or on our social media. And we do read all the comments. Sometimes we're happy about it, sometimes we're not. But we do appreciate the reactions that you give us. And we like to know, it's good for us to know that the stuff we create and distribute to you is great. So thank you all for listening to this crossover podcast. I'm greatly appreciative of our friends from Metuchen coming down. So Tara and Jerry, thank you very much for this, and Jen, thank you very much for joining on the podcast as well, and coming to work with us for so many months now. It's been great.
It's been great. It's been 6 months, and I can't wait for
another 6 months.
Another 6 months.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This was wonderful.
And we'll gather again next year, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I'll
Keep this annual.
That's right. I'm on board. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.